Hi, I'm Megan from Crown of Asteria.
Hey guys, here in Flo's Metal World, and I've got today a new interview with Crown of Asteria, and I would say let's start.
Flo's Metal World, the ultimate metal blog.
I searched on the internet about Crown of Asteria and I found out that you released a lot of music in the past. What makes your new record a special one?
What makes Raud Skinna in particular special or stand out from the other releases I've done has to come down to the mixing side of it. On this particular release, I had a lot of personal goals that I wanted to achieve. I had learned a lot more this time around in terms of, for instance, layering guitars differently or panning them differently, the way the drums were mixed. There's a lot of instrumentation in this, from flutes, acoustics, hand drums, vocals. There's a lot in there, and there's a lot of nuanced changes or subtle things throughout the album that as a whole makes it more structured in a sense, just like more solid. But also, I feel because of the research that I did, the lyrics, the themes, as a whole it's more cohesive in a way. Everything, the tracks flow, they have a certain sound. I think there's a solid sound to this album, and I think it flows better together than previous releases that I have done.
Why have you chosen the band name Crown of Asteria?
The reason I chose Crown of Asteria for a band name is because I wanted something to encompass kind of the feminine energy, but more of a primal, wild, like ancientness that comes with it. So Asteria herself is the Titan goddess of stars, oracles, divination, tarot, astrology. She's the mother of Hecate, who is the goddess of witches, rules over witches. So I knew when I started Crown of Asteria that initially, yes, it was going to be nature themed, but I knew my interest in mysticism, metaphysics, spirituality, and the occult would come out at some point down the road. So the more I thought about it, Asteria governed these subjects, and I used the crown as symbolism of, just that. It symbolized governing as a whole, all of the interest into this project.
Which other artists have influenced your music career and your music?
Artists that influenced me would be Enslaved, Amorphous, Windeer, Tauka, Volknagar, to name a few, Blood of a Black Owl, and some Wolves in the Throne Room. Speaking of Enslaved and Amorphous, more so that progressive mix of melodic, folk, blackened, sometimes ambient even. That mixture was always interesting to me, and I love the fact that they continuously produce things that were new and refreshing. You never really would know what the next release would sound like, and I thought that was awesome. And the pushing the boundaries in the genre, and they did it so well, was always inspirational to me. So I think that's where Crown of Asteria gets that wavering between a couple different sounds here and there, genre-wise, but I think more traditionally, Windeer and Tauka, their sound, black metal-wise, influenced me. Wolves in the Throne Room too, it just, that traditional touch, but still a little different. But speaking of Tauka and Windeer in particular, they've always been my favorite black metal bands. Tauka always has amazing guitar work, and it's always been the staple for me personally. inspiration-wise, like that's who I listen to for inspiration when it comes to guitar work. Also, Wind Deer, and they are just, always were phenomenal to me. They had a very mature sound. I love the fact that their material surrounded, their hometown of Asongo, and the myths and things that were very personal to them as a band. So yeah. And then, speaking of, Blood of the Black Owl, again, very ritualized, organic sound, the warmth, authenticity of the artist's home coming through. It's very inspiring, for sure. I love the doom part of it, but I also, again, the mixture of the folk and the heavier aspects are always my favorite thing when it's done in that way, I should say. And Borknagar, also, progressive, melodic, folk, all mixed into one. That's my favorite.
Which one is your favorite track on your new record?
My favorite track from the album would have to be I Master, because it's a part in the theme, or the story, that it's powerful, because the main sorcerer, who is trying to follow in the footsteps of Gaskonk and would like to retrieve the Raudskina from him, has now declared this, not only to himself, but to the world, that this is what he's going to do. One way or another, he will get this book. He will have that power, and he will enslave Satan himself. Because that is this myth, is that he believed that this book that Gaskonk was buried with were to have the ultimate power, and to them enslaving Satan was basically the ultimate show of this power. You're taking over this entity who at the time is feared by all, and you are making him bend the knee to you. It's a very powerful track. I was proud of the way that the folk and the atmosphere was mixed into it. It's just very powerful. You can tell that it's coming, like the story itself is coming to an end.
I looked up Crown of Asteria and I found a lot of nature pictures with trees. What's the reason for the nature love?
The love behind all the nature-oriented things with Crown of Asteria is simply because that is what I like. It's just a passion of mine. Outdoors enthusiast, if you will. A lot of my hobbies revolve around being outdoors, from hiking, gardening, camping, and just exploring in general. That's where a lot of the nature-oriented things come from in Crown of Asteria, for the most part.
Let's talk about the forest. Would you survive in the forest? Yes or no?
I would like to think that I have a pretty good chance of surviving, just because I have experience camping, hiking, being outdoors. If I had to have a plan, well, you want to conserve your energy for the most part. You're going to be doing a lot of things during the day in order to survive, and you can't deplete yourself while you're doing these activities, such as, gathering firewood, having your shelter, having the fire, finding a water source. You want to make sure that you ideally can have this around, like your shelter, your campsite, around the water source. Don't eat where you sleep where you eat. Keep away from the predators, and if you needed to find your way out, you could follow the river. And this is just a very short explanation, but I'd like to think I could take care of myself. I don't know for how long, but it'd be a nice challenge.
And what's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal would have to be the bear. And I say the bear because this is just such an ancient animal. It's been around since we've been around, and when you see a bear enter into an environment where there are other animals and other predators, they know to give the bear its due space. Bear has a very, I think, quiet strength about it. Other animals just know that to respect this animal. And you can just tell from the bear that it carries a lot of wisdom around with it. It's a very sacred animal to most, very powerful animal. You know, from the bear cults around the world, the mythologies, the constellation of Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. A lot of mythologies believe that the bear came from the stars. There's feasts that were done in hunts, special hunts done for the bear. You know, the finish. You know, the album prior to this, Karhu Baka, was based around the bear, based around its divinity to some. But yes, I feel very connected to it as an animal. I just find them fascinating. And you know, there's that awesome paradox there where you have this ferocious predator who you know is at the top of the food chain, but when you see it with its young, it's the most nurturing and, you know, this loving animal. And it's just, you know, this mother bear, that saying, they have that in them, that this animal in particular, that complexity of being so loving, nurturing, and yet in a second, if you were to mess with its young, you know, they could die in an instant.
What are your future plans?
Future plans for Crown of Asteria, or music in general for me, is I personally am branching more out into ambient work, like cinematic stuff. I'm working with some individuals at the moment, so I will have more material out soon. But yeah, I'd like to work on a lot of ambient things at the moment.
Have you mixed the album by your own, and have you taken the pictures by your own?
I did mix Raudskinna myself. Most of the pictures, all of the pictures are indeed taken by me, unless otherwise noted. So yeah, it was a wonderful opportunity to do this interview, and I thank you. And I'd like to thank those who support me and who have been with me through this journey so far. It means a lot, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
So thanks for watching the interview. Subscribe on Flow's Metal World, that you always have the latest metal news. And if it's day, have a nice day, and if it's night, sleep well and stay happy.